All right, well, even with Dzhokhar Tsarnaev telling authorities why he and his brother carried out the attacks, conspiracy theorists are insisting the two were framed or that the scene is a fake. Now the mainstream media has a choice: cover the paranoia or ignore it. Adam Riley has more.
When Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's mother spoke with CNN, she made it clear that she thinks her sons were set up.
I don't believe.
And despite an abundance of evidence, she's not the only one in denial. Conspiracy media kingpin Alex Jones says the government staged the Boston bombings as part of a bigger war on freedom.
You're like, well, why is it wrong if they went door to door and made people come out with their hands up? If they can do that, they can condition people for the door-to-door gun confiscation.
Meanwhile, Twitter and Tumblr are packed with people convinced of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's innocence, many of whom seem to think he's just too cute to be a terrorist. None of this comes as a surprise. From 9/11 to Aurora to Newtown, the urge to see conspiracy behind tragedy seems irresistible, and so does the media's desire to push back.
Professor Tracy claims the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary did not happen as reported and may not have happened at all.
But instead of setting conspiracy theorists straight, all this coverage may just give them the audience they crave.
Well, they're not getting a lot of coverage, but I stumbled on some of these websites that I was, going through reams and reams, and then I'd get deeper and deeper into, how that happens. You're sort of following some kind of a thread. And I found all websites and, complicated theories and, details, and you can see here that this is fake and this is they practice this maneuver and on and on and on. And then somebody else will jump in, yep, and then you can further see this is, it's like it's more than one person. Oh, you got your mouth wide open. But, but should the media be parsing this and analyzing it and saying, obviously, they're cuckoo? Probably not. I mean, that's as much as I want to see.
Well, the media should be analyzing this. I mean, we have one story, of course, that came out, I think it was Reddit, where a missing Brown University student was suddenly equated or were seen as the terrorist, the possible terrorist. Yeah. He's missing, so the conclusion was, on the part of some, was that he may have something to do with this. But I can see where it comes from. I was at a barber shop this past week, as you can see. And in the barber shop, talking with the young people in the barber shop, many of them students at Cambridge, Ridge, and Leiden, some of them living around the neighborhood where the suspects are from, many of them were convinced that this is a conspiracy. Many of them will head right back to Facebook and to Twitter and talk about this as a conspiracy. But I interviewed several of these kids, and they're convinced that it's a conspiracy, and it's exacerbated by the contradictions in the later stories from the FBI and the Boston police about the capture and the shootout. So it's clear where some of this is coming from.
Yeah, the law enforcement, I said, has not done everybody a favor. If they give us a blow-by-blow, there's a lot of answers still to be.
My view, though, is different. I don't think the media is in the business of not passing along rumor or passing along what is clearly just nuts. I mean, you're always going to have somebody who will say the moon is made of green cheese or something. We don't report that. And I think particularly in a case like this, if there is no credible evidence at all, then I think the media's best course is absolutely ignore it, and that's a statement by itself.
But sometimes these reach critical mass. Remember the whole Vince Foster suicide thing? I mean, people were ignoring that, and then finally the conspiracy just reached critical mass, and the networks, everybody had to.
Well, and I think that was the case with the Brown University student. It had reached that point that the media had to address it, and the family felt that they had to come out and just say what had happened to them. And of course, we now know days later.
He's dead.
The body was.
Well, I think some of this is obscene, and so media needs to think about it. I heard an interview with a woman whose mother was killed in Newtown, and she said she's in a store and she's hearing these people go on about, that was all fake blood. Those people didn't really die, and she just, about lost her mind. I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "But I couldn't have a reasonable conversation because they don't believe that people died in Newtown." So the same thing happening here. On the other hand, I think I'm with you about. Some of this stuff just has to be dismissed and let's not report it because it is rumor. On the other hand, sometimes in conversations afterwards, if people ask questions that seem to have a reasonable, well, why did, if you say it's in the perimeter or not in the perimeter, was the boat in the perimeter or not? These questions need, no, I'm serious. These questions need to be answered so people can get off the thing about whether or not this was some kind of conspiracy with 5 or 6 other people or the police.
Well, I mean, law enforcement, there was such a confusing scene that we're now finding out that some of the first things that law enforcement told us were wrong. But that doesn't mean it's a conspiracy.
Right. That's right.
But I certainly agree that we should ignore this stuff to the extent that we can. But how do you ignore the Mother's News Conference? You can't ignore that. And you heard every nutty conspiracy theory out there coming out of her mouth.
Well, but I think that's a different thing. So, yeah, the mother she will have that view, and probably friends of Dzhokhar will have that view. Okay, you just put it out there. No comment beyond that. Don't even bother to say it's crazy. And just go on. You just
put that. You put her interview out, and then you lay out the facts. At the time that she says they couldn't have done it, here's where they were. And then let people decide for themselves. That's what we're supposed to be doing.